Welcome everybody. This is Jeff Phillips with Accountingtly calling in from Pensacola, Florida. Thanks for attending today's session, Shaping Your Vision, Your Brand, and Your Destiny. I want to bring in Emma Cole with the Alabama Society of CPAs. Emma, welcome.
Thank you, Jeff, and welcome everyone to this webinar. We're really glad that you took the time to join us today. As you know, the conference is only a week away, September 2nd in Birmingham, Alabama, and we are looking forward to so many of you joining us at the Alabama Society of CPAs Diversity and Inclusion Conference. This particular webinar, I would like to thank Jeff at Accountingtly, and I would also like to thank Yvonne Harris for participating in. Will provide you with valuable information that I know that you won't just use at the conference, but that will help to shape your vision, your brand, and your destiny beyond. So with that, I just want to thank them and just remind you to see us on September 2nd, and I will turn it back over to Jeff.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Emma. So a couple of housekeeping items just about many of you have maybe never used a GoToWebinar before, but you do have a question panel, a big white box you can type in questions. And I know you're going to want to ask questions for Yvonne, and I'll be happy to read them to Yvonne as we end the session later today. I mean, later today in about 45 minutes, so this isn't going to take all night. And so please fire off those questions, and I'll ask them of Yvonne. So, and wish everybody well. I met many of you when I was in Montgomery. I'm sorry. No, it was Birmingham. It was Birmingham, right? Just a few weeks back, part of my like 2-month road show. So it's all like flowing together now. But I had a great time getting to know a lot of the Alabama State Society students. So it's important for us to be able to bring you the very best speakers and topics that can equip students to make good choices about their career. You're getting an accounting degree, you're part of this great state society, and you're going to have this awesome opportunity next week to interact with recruiters and leaders from firms that are hiring in your state. And so part of this is just, let's get ready for that, to make sure you make the most of that experience. We want you to leave an impression and leave a good resume and get good internship and entry-level job opportunities. So take advantage of this time. And I want to bring in my friend Yvonne Harris, and Yvonne's going to give an introduction, a little bit of her background, but I can tell you that Yvonne has hired a lot of accountants off of college campuses in her day as a recruiter in the accounting world, both in very large firms and mid-market firms, and currently leads the diversity and inclusion efforts at Capgemini, a renowned consulting firm. And we've done a lot of presentations together over the years. So I'm going to drive the slides. Yvonne, thank you on short notice for being here. And I welcome you, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say. And I'm going to be on standby, and I might jump in and ask a few questions or make a few points as well along the way. All right, but Yvonne, welcome.
Thank you, Jeff, and absolutely jump in. Emma, you as well. And I want to thank everyone for your time this afternoon on the call. I've heard a lot about the big event that is coming up, and it's my hope, though, that there's information that's shared on this call between the three of us as presenters and also through some of your Q&A that will serve you beyond any one particular event, but really challenge you to think through your vision, your brand, and your destiny, obviously connecting it primarily to your focus on landing a job. So I realize that we are just getting back into the swing of things at school, but the recruitment season, I recognize, starts pretty quickly, and just hearing that there's an event that's, in a week, definitely I understand the urgency of you guys getting back out there and getting connected to some of the career opportunities that you are exploring. And I am honored to have known Jeff for a few years and really admire the great work that he has done for so many students and young professionals through his work with Accountingtly. So particularly in alignment with this topic, or the topic of this presentation, Jeff truly espouses the attributes of someone with a mission, a brand, and a devotion to shaping his destiny and contributing to those who are connected with him. So Jeff, thank you again for the opportunity to speak to everyone this afternoon. So a little bit more about me. I am with Capgemini, and I am the Assistant Director for Capgemini North America's Corporate Responsibility and Sustainability team. And as a part of that, I lead the Diversity and Inclusion Program for North America. So I support a client group of about 16,000 people here in the US and Canada. I'm a former HR director and was with a Big Four accounting firm and also a large national firm, and spent many years of my career in that space. I have a couple of HR certifications, and I'm also a certified life coach. I am an HBCU graduate. I graduated from Hampton University in Virginia, and my favorite job that I have is I'm a mom to a 7-year-old boy who hopefully you guys can see on the screen, and really just take a lot of delight in helping him to shape his vision, his mission, and his brand, which may seem like a lot at 7, but we just have a lot of fun together. So this topic is very near and dear to me. A little bit more information, if I may, about Capgemini. Capgemini is an IT consulting firm. We have over 180,000 people in 40 countries, and we are a leader in consulting, technology, and outsourcing services. Together with our clients, we create and deliver business technology and digital solutions that fit our clients' needs and enable them to achieve innovation and competitiveness. So I mentioned on the previous slide that I joined Capgemini, or I'm with Capgemini, but had some other career experiences prior. So connect that to this topic, and that in joining Capgemini in June 2015, I had to redefine my vision for myself, for my career, and rebrand myself. I went from human resources into corporate responsibility and shifted focus to full-time and diversity and inclusion. So a major overhaul for me and my career, and I share that with you on this call today because I've walked in your shoes. Actually, I've walked in your shoes a number of times, which is one of the things that you're really going to understand from this exercise, is that, you look at the title of this presentation, Shaping Your Vision, Your Brand, and Your Destiny, and you could almost think of it as being static, right? You sit down one day, you have a sheet of paper, a pen, you write your vision, you write your brand, and you write your destiny, and that's it. You're done with the assignment. And I wish it was that easy, but it's a lot more fluid, and it's something that you may have to revisit a number of times throughout your career. You may have to revisit it a couple of times throughout this search for your first opportunity, but that is okay. It's a part of the process. But I just wanted to point that out because you could look at my background and say, okay, well, you kind of painted your career and going down this HR path, and quite honestly, it wasn't, my journey took a different turn than I thought it would as well. So, Jeff, let's go to the agenda and just cover what we're going to talk about. today. So you've connected with Accountingtly, but let's just make sure that we understand the benefits of being a part of this great network. Accountingtly definitely provides services to those of you who are pursuing careers in accounting that no other organization provides. So we'll talk about that briefly. And then we are going to reinforce, resupport the great decision that you've made to pursue a career in accounting. And then we'll get to the meat of today's presentation, shaping your vision, creating your brand, and determining your destiny. And I do have a disclaimer, though, for today's session. I'm sharing information, and I hope that it's information that many of you will find helpful or at a minimum thought-provoking. But I do just want to say that I don't come before you this afternoon claiming to have the answers or claiming to have your answers. I truly believe that each of us has within us the answers we need. We just have to tap into the wealth of our own knowledge pool to address the last 3 bullets on this agenda: shaping your vision, creating your brand, and determining your destiny. Based on the structure of Accountingtly calls, we will go through content and then allow plenty of time for Q&A. So I encourage you to please take advantage of the Q&A time with the 3 of us here on the line. And if you walk away with one valuable golden nugget that can help you in your recruitment process, can help you with this upcoming event, can help you with an upcoming interview, then the 3 of us have done our jobs. So please allow us the chance to do that.
Yvonne, I know you're ready for me to advance the slides, and but I wanted to just ask a quick question before we even move forward.
Sure.
Thank you for the introduction to Capgemini. I mean, this is such a large global corporation. Because the event that the Alabama State Society is specifically focused on diversity and inclusion, and that happens to be your role. Would you mind adding to this front end of the call just a little bit about the theme of diversity and inclusion and what, maybe even just by defining it and what you and what your employer sees as the mission when it comes to diversity and inclusion, and your answer may also be, oh, I'm going to weave that into this conversation, but I would like to even just start there because it will set the tone for this call and the event next week.
Sure, absolutely. So Capgemini has a very robust program and streamlined focus on diversity and inclusion. And I'm glad, Jeff, that you're making me pause to mention that, because for those of you who are participating on the call, many of the organizations that you are going to be meeting with, talking to, exploring career opportunities with, if diversity and inclusion is something that you really want to check the pulse on, the recruitment process is the opportunity for you to do that. So at Capgemini, we take a very holistic approach and view of diversity and inclusion. Very simply, diversity is our mix, inclusion is what we do with the mix. So it's how we bring diversity of thought to the table to provide better solutions for our clients. So most of my time, Jeff, is actually spent managing our employee resource groups, which many of the students going through the recruitment process, you're going to hear things like employee resource groups, affinity groups, business resource groups, but they're really an opportunity for you to build your network and your brand when you land within an organization through one of these groups that has a focus around a dimension of diversity. So it could be for African American employees, it could be for Latino employees, it could be a resource group focused on women's initiatives. At Capgemini, we have 11 of them. And we have, I want to say, over 1,300 employees who are active in that effort. So a lot of our focus within the D&I space is largely through our client service professionals who lead these employee resource groups and connect to our leadership as well as to our colleagues and deliver solutions in the space of commerce, career, culture, and community. So hopefully that gives you context in terms of my day-to-day, and it's a very rewarding job. It's a great space to be in, and as Jeff mentioned, you know, I've been in the accounting space. I've also done a lot of recruitment, and a lot of recruitment at historically black colleges and universities. So not only have I walked in the shoes of many of you on the call, I've walked beside you as a recruiter, hoping to open doors for you for a great opportunity. So does that provide enough information, Jeff?
Awesome. No, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I stopped and asked you that, and I appreciate it. And of course, it provides the perfect answer. Thanks, Yvonne. I appreciate it.
No problem. So the benefits of Accountingtly Network, and hopefully this is a review for those of you on the call because you're connected and you're here. And Accountingtly is very unique in its goal and outreach in terms of not only connecting you with employers that are hiring, but making you a better person along the way throughout the process. So, you know, Emma, I know you see it from the perspective of someone in academia, but anyone correct me, I don't know of any other organization that is devoted not only to placement of qualified candidates like you on the call, but also to workshops, webinars, opportunities to, you know, get and receive coaching from professionals, and I think that's a very unique experience. And please know that you don't have to keep this experience to yourselves. I realize that many of your fellow classmates may have class at this time, or maybe they're at work, but encourage them to listen to this recording. If they're not connected with Accountingtly, get them connected. And when you land your first job, or you land your internship, or it's your first full-time, that doesn't mean that Accountingtly goes away. This can be an integral part of your career plan and your career process for many years to come. So glad that you're on the call, you're very smart, and you realize the benefits that Accountingtly provides. So you made a great decision to pursue accounting. I have talked to many students who have made the choice to pursue a career in accounting, and actually I am an accounting major myself. My bachelor degree is in accounting. So I do understand the journey and the decision, and also too understand that many of you are making the decision, and what does that mean? You know, I'm majoring in accounting, but what do I do with it? What opportunities are fit me best? Am I audit? Am I tax? Am I Big Four? Am I small local firm? Am I industry? And the great news about it is, as this slide indicates, you've won in terms of the fact that you get to decide what you want to do. Accounting majors are in great demand, and many of you will probably go through this recruitment season and end up with multiple offers. At least I wish that for each of you. And that may actually be seem like more of a problem when you're in that situation, but I think it just points to your marketability and the fact that you are in a field that companies want to hire. So as we move forward in this presentation, I think part of what you're trying to achieve as you're stepping out there in that space to be recruited is, again, setting your mission, your vision, your brand, and your destiny so that you're being very intentional and that you are attracting opportunities to you that really align with what you want. It's one thing to receive multiple job offers from, let's just say, from all the big four. You get a job offer from all the big four. But if it was never your intention, it was never a part of your plan to go work for the big four, while someone could look at your situation and say, oh, Jeff, you're so lucky you got offers from all the big four. If that's not where you want to be, you don't feel like you've achieved your mission. You don't feel like you have success, and you may be making a decision that takes your career in a different direction than you were hoping for. Jeff or Emma, anything that you want to add about, the viability of accounting degrees and just what a great position they're in?
Yeah, I would like to, and I just want to echo Yvonne's comments. You may not have realized that the path you've chosen is so marketable, but it's also very, it's also a gateway to so many careers. I mean, if you think about, there are just dozens, if not hundreds, of career paths that can start with an accounting degree. Mm-hmm. I think lawyers, investment bankers, administrators, business managers. It is the perfect starting point, and many of you have probably heard that in your classes, but out here in the business world, it's absolutely true. And I think, Yvonne, it's actually the greatest economic demand for people with an accounting degree in history. So it's historic at this point. According to the ASCPA trend and the trends of supply and demand and talent survey from last year. So it's just a really exciting time. And what that means, what that doesn't mean is everyone's just going to get the job that they want. You have to go out and you have to get it. And that's why, Yvonne, when you said you've got to attract the right positions, I think a lot of it, there's some thinking to do. What
Mm-hmm.
would you like to pursue? And also, what is the skill set and the skills you're going to have to display to be hired? And I know that's what we're going to eventually talk about. But the good news is you're at the right starting point.
Right. So as we transition into, shaping your vision, to Jeff's point, and I just mentioned, so hopefully you're connecting the dots, I was an accounting major. I'm now in the field of corporate responsibility and sustainability. So I did not stay in an accounting-focused role for a long period of time, but because of my degree, because of my background, I was able to parlay my accounting degree into HR roles within accounting. I could walk the walk, I could talk the talk. I was very comfortable in the accounting space and was just able to use it as a springboard into something different. And then, something else in that space is I also supported, when I was in accounting, for a number of years, our tax professionals. So was able to now then kind of streamline and become laser focused, and that I became a great HR professional and business partner to people who are focused in tax. So as you're going through this exercise and you're thinking through, okay, what is it that I want to do? Most importantly, realize that this is just the first step in a number of opportunities that you are going to have. And even if you say to yourself, I don't know if I want to be a partner in the Big Four, I don't know if I want to be the CEO of a major corporation, that's fine. But get the opportunity, get the experience, and continue the exercise of how do I take the value from my degree in accounting, my degree in business, and make it pay dividends in years to come. So shaping your vision. How do you create your vision? First thing you do is, I think Jeff just said the word a moment ago, is you just think. And I know that seems silly and you're like, okay, why did I join a call and the speaker just told me to think? Well, it's because oftentimes in college and work and the day-to-day, that's the one thing that we don't do enough of. We're just going oftentimes through the motions. We're going through routine, and I think now is an opportunity where you're really saying to yourself, I need to create time, quiet time and space, and try to map out what it is I'm trying to achieve. Let's call it the first 3 to 5 years, okay? So don't load so much pressure on yourself that you're trying to plan your entire career, but plan for a span that you're comfortable with. So if 5 years seems too short or too long, excuse me, I can honestly tell you planning for a year may not cut it with the career search. Anywhere from 3 to 5 should be good, okay? And start to write down what it is that you think you want to achieve near term and long term. And I say write, okay? I'm a little old school. I love lists. I love pen to paper. Put it in your smartphone, whatever it is that you need to do to capture your thoughts. Don't trust yourself to remember, but if you come across this really great idea of, gosh, you know, I really love, I don't know, I'm going to throw an example out, music, okay? I love the thought of going into the music industry. Okay, so I know Accountingtly necessarily isn't focused on that, and Jeff, hopefully you don't mind me kind of stepping out into another space here, but maybe you become an accountant for a record company. And you can then start to build your decision trees and kind of your outline or your plan once you're really authentic and focused on what is my vision. And is there a process that you can follow? I just mentioned list. We have here at Capgemini something that's called our Employee Innovation or Millennial Innovation Council. It's one of our employee resource groups. And one of the things that's really impressed me when they're coming up with new ideas or new ways of looking at things, they do visioning exercises. So has anyone heard of visioning? And I know we can't poll, but I asked the question anyway. But vision boards, actually, you know, coming up with collages or an actual visual of what they're trying to achieve in terms of a solution. If you're a creative type, if you are a visual learner, creating a vision board for your professional career or even just your personal life may help you in terms of actually creating the mental picture that you need to hold on to as you're creating your focus for what it is that you're trying to achieve for your career. This is not a one-time project. This is something that you will have to do at different points, and there's no math to it, right? Do you do a vision board every 6 months? Do you do one every 5 years? It's really you. It's when do you need to sit down, maybe hit the reset button, maybe you headed down one path, some really unique surprises came along and you kind of ended up in a different space on your journey. This exercise of shaping your vision is something that is going to be a lifelong process. You just have the, hopefully you walk away from this call with just some information that maybe your peers won't have to say it's actually something that you need to be intentional about. You know, if you choose to just walk through life and let things happen, great things will happen, but if you're intentional about it, you're actually helping greater things to happen to you because you're attracting them to you as opposed to just receiving whatever is out there. And the vision, actually the definition of the vision is the act or power of anticipating that which will or may come to be. And one thing I do want to add to this is there's power in writing. So you heard me say list, you heard me say type in your iPhone, whatever you need to do, but you've got to take what's in your brain and actually write it down, and that's when it starts to come to life. That's when you become accountable to something that you're trying to achieve.
Yvonne, I'll advance. I totally agree with your point that if you are intentional about laying out your vision, it may not look exactly like what you set out, but you are on a path, and that is so important. And writing down is incredibly powerful. It is absolutely critical to to looking at, at what the future ought to look like and putting it in writing, so that there's some kind of power and that pulls that vision forward for sure.
So thank you, Jeff. And I've used the word several times in my talking points, and you'll see it right here on this slide, but it's that word intentional. So once you start to create your vision, okay, so even just start to create it. It may take, you know, a few steps to actually get to something that is complete from your perspective and that you want to roll with it. But again, you're holding yourself accountable, and now you're saying, okay, and let's put it in a career perspective, I have now outlined that these are the things that are very important to me in my first job out of college, in my internship. I know Accountingtly has a statistic that there was a recent poll of over 400 students, aspiring CPAs, and they were asked, you know, what's really important to them when they choose a job, and it was work-life balance, the mission, vision of the company or firm they were joining, so I think that's pretty interesting if you connect it to the topic, and then their money, their compensation. So when you think about what's important to you, what are your top three? It could be something totally different, and that's okay. But along your search, now that you've identified your top three, your top four, your top five, you now know how to research companies and make sure that they're hitting on that list. So there could be a great company out there, but you do some more research and they're not aligned with the top three things that are important to you. My statement would then be, great company, but maybe not great company for you. You need to move on to the next option. Okay, because otherwise you could end up in a space where if you're not being authentic, if you're not aligning with a company that truly ties to your passion and to things that are important for you, not sure that it's going to be the best fit for you in the long run. So your vision is, you know, basically I'll call it the tangible thing you're putting together. The actions that you take to achieve the vision become your brand. Okay, so another analogy, if I may, the vision is the product. The brand, the vision is the product, the actions are the brand. So a product is coffee, and the brand is the type of coffee that you prefer. Okay, so when we talk about branding yourself, when we talk about presenting yourself to companies, you've now done the work behind the scenes to become intentional about aligning with companies and putting your foot forward with companies you wanted to be recruited by, and now you're presenting to the company your brand. Why do they want you? What is it about your experience? What is it about your education? What is it about you as a person that helps to further the connection from you to them where both parties are seeing the value? Okay, so now take this a step further. One of your exercises needs to be, what are your strengths? What is it about you that a company would really want to be attracted to you and want to hire you? And you need to be very clear in that. And how do you promote your brand? So let's just get to a few tangibles. Your resume, first and foremost. Speaking to you from a recruiter perspective, the resume is my first look at you. And I use that word look loosely. The time and effort that you put into coming up with a very crisp, concise, professional resume says a lot. A little recruiter tip here, oftentimes many of the recruiters that you get in front of are inundated with the number of candidates, campus candidates, students, and also experienced candidates. So the tip I'm going to share with you is oftentimes as recruiters, we're looking for ways to weed candidates out of the process. Nothing personal, right? But we've got to start with the cone very big at the top and narrow it down. So your resume It has typos. It doesn't have complete information. There's information that's missing. If you work for a company that's made it clear that they want your GPA on the resume and your GPA is not there, your resume now goes into a different stack. It now goes off the recruiter's desk. So the story that you're trying to tell, your brand that's supporting and driving your vision, oftentimes is your resume. If you are entering the recruiting season and you have not updated your resume, you haven't had others look at your resume, that needs to be a step that you need to handle today or tomorrow. A professor can look at your resume and give you some feedback. Some of the officers in your career placement center can help you as well. Your resume should be one page for every 10 years. So another tip is if your resume at this point for most of you is 2 pages long, it's 1 page too long. And that tells me that you're not focused on what are the key things about you that make you stand out, that make you different. It's not about making you better. It's just about presenting the best version of you to potential employers. Emma or Jeff, anything that you want to say there about the brand?
I would add to the brand is how you present in networking events like next week,
Yes.
and in interviews, and how so it's really just a couple of things. It is the resume, and it's that basic elevator pitch, and we talked about that in Birmingham, in Montgomery. And I would add also your guidance counselor, your guidance counselors. We're not in high school. Your school career counselors, but also Karina, Diane and Emma from the Alabama State Society. These are people that could probably give good advice on resumes, and as well as just general networking skills. And I'm gonna circle back to Yvonne with networking in just a few minutes because it's a big part, but philosophically, it's important to understand that how you present that resume, how you present your professional demeanor and approach people, and your elevator pitch, that is how you communicate the brand.
And that's a great point, Jeff. I honed in mainly from the perspective of the reach out being virtual, so the resume. But yeah, what is your brand when you walk in the room at an event? And just to show you how this is going to be really a lifelong journey for many of us, I was working very closely with someone who's trusted in my network, and she was being considered for a big promotion. And what was interesting was that she reached out to me and even had the question of, how do I better dress, better present myself for this promotion? I still feel like I look like I'm at this current level, and I want them to start seeing me at that new role. What do I need to do? So small things, and I say small, but they're really simple things that make a big impact. That's probably better stated. Professional attire. How do you present yourself when you go to an event? Is your business casual a little bit too much casual, and it should be more business? Do you know when to transition from business casual to true business? And I know it may seem very small, but something you need to think about. Going through the recruitment process, I had to invest in 2 really good suits, and I wore those suits in rotation for, I guess, the 3 to 6 months that I was in the process. But I knew that I had to project a certain image based on how I was branding myself to the companies I was trying to get connected with. And I didn't go entertainment, I didn't go marketing, I went, at the time it was the Big 6, and in that particular time, it was very professional, and I didn't have the ability to take chances with my dress. and that was a big part of it. But I know, Jeff, you're too peeling back the layers on, some other aspects of the in-person networking. What's your elevator speech? How do you shake hands? Do you know the appropriate time to hand, your business card or your resume? And those are key things that, we may not be able to get to everything on this call, but we'll try. But if you need the answer on fine-tuning some of those things just so you feel more confident walking in the room, we'll find you a resource to get you connected on that. I guess a couple more points about creating your brand, if we could move forward, Jeff. Social media. So organizations now, companies now are really in tune not only with their social media presence, but social media presence of candidates. And I know that we hear, a lot of sometimes in the news, the negative stories about, someone posted something, super crazy out in social media and the employer picked up on it. That is a reality, but I don't want to go negative on social media. For the moment, I just want to stay positive. For those of you who are super social media savvy, that's an asset for you. So you not only have, your resume, for example, but how do you tie in your social media presence to boost your resume and to tell more about you, share more facets about who you are as a person that maybe this one-page document just simply can't share. So you have your resume. Hopefully all of you have LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, or you have an account but you haven't really built out your profile, you're not super active, that would be an action item that I would say everyone on the call should walk away with. LinkedIn is the social media medium for business. And whether you're passively looking for an opportunity or actively looking for an opportunity, this is the place employers go to look for qualified candidates. So make sure you have a sharp LinkedIn account. If you like to write, or you're writing articles maybe for your college newspaper or you're blogging, how are you connecting your blog accounts in such a way that your employers or prospective employers are getting looks? Do you have your social media handles on your resume connected to your LinkedIn so people are getting more of a big picture about who you are and what value you bring, as opposed to relying on a resume? And this is where I come in from the fact that it's super positive. I didn't, for those who came up at the time I was going through recruiting, we didn't have all these vehicles and channels to connect. I mean, your resume was really it, and just really do a great job on the interview, which is still very important. But you have a leg up. You have an advantage of some different mediums to showcase your strengths. Take advantage of it. And I know September turns into a crazy busy month for recruitment, so start now and getting your social media presence up to date. Okay, let's go to determining your destiny. So if you establish your vision and create a positive brand for yourself through your actions in support of your vision, the opportunities will come. And I think the problem that many of you connected with Accountingtly will have is that you're going to have so many opportunities to choose from. It then becomes, which one do you take? But be honest with yourself throughout the journey. And I would even say, and Jeff's heard me give this statement before, even if somewhere in this part of your journey you decide that maybe accounting is not for you, that is okay too. And at least now you have the benefit of a period to readjust and reassess so that you can land an opportunity that's a great first step for you. All the planning in the world is not going to keep surprises from coming your way, and hopefully there are lots of good surprises. But maybe if something pops up in your career path, maybe an opportunity with an organization that you would have never considered, a nonprofit shows up. You can follow these steps again and say, okay, does the nonprofit align with my short-term and or long-term vision? How do I brand myself to be an asset for that nonprofit, and how do I make sure they're an asset for my career? And then just, make a determination, that being an example. And then the last point that I make is build your personal board of directors. So this is something that's very near and dear to me, and that I am surrounded by people that I trust to tell me the honest, sometimes gut-wrenching truth about decisions that I need help with, and they really do serve to help to guide me. So if you are in this career search and you have not reached out to one single person to bounce something off of or to have a sounding board, my advice to you is that you need to find some people that you can trust so that when opportunities are coming your way, you are getting feedback from someone who's not going through it necessarily with you, but could give you some objective advice about what they're hearing about your job search and help to guide you. But to do it in a vacuum, you could easily come up with the right decision, but sometimes it's helpful to have people who are co-signing the right decision and giving you the encouragement that you need. Jeff, with that, would you like to turn it over to some questions? I know we're like 13 minutes before the hour, so want to make sure we get a few questions in.
Let's do that. And you have the timing down perfectly. Just one comment. The last bullet point is a piece of advice I wish I had when I was in school still, because I was making so many decisions on my own, or maybe I would just call my parents for decisions. But when you're in college, you are surrounded by a lot more support than you think you are. Maybe your professors. I mean, the students on this call are student members of the Alabama State Society, and there's a team there that supports them and cares about their future. So these are great folks to lean on for that personal board of directors. What a great piece of advice, Yvonne. Thank you. The first question is I'm gonna offer a piece of advice, and then Yvonne kind of get your response. And it's about when we're talking about the brand. See, I think one question that's on everybody's mind is, well, what do I do when I show up to this conference? How do I engage recruiters? How do I talk to people like you, Yvonne, when you were still running recruiting? And that's totally important. But what Yvonne is walking you all through right now, that information is the prerequisite that you should be thinking about before you think about the tactic of, how do I do networking? How do I network? So that's a really important. These are all things that formulate how you are going to communicate with recruiters, so that you have opinions. Mm-hmm. So anyway, but it's important to talk about engaging recruiters and networking in general. When we were in Montgomery, Yvonne, you'd have loved this. So Karina and Emma and Diana from the ASCPA challenged every student in the room during this networking break to go into their break and get 3 business cards from the professionals that were the members of the Alabama State Society who were there. And under that pressure, everybody had a motivation to go get business cards. I think there was a prize for the most business cards. So all of a sudden, all of the students from the room were assertively walking up to the CPAs in the room and introducing themselves, saying hello, telling where they are in school, and asking for a card. And everybody did a great job. But it was a shift in mindset. We all kind of go into a professional networking session, and even the most extroverted people may pull back. Well, next week is not the time for that, I would say, and nor is really any professional networking. That's a time to switch on a mindset of how many connections can I make? And part of that is what you're going to say about yourself. Don't put too much pressure on yourself about this, but by answering some of the questions and thinking about what Yvonne has told you, it helps you answer questions that will come up. But one of the things is the elevator pitch, and it's kind of an overused term, but really what we're talking about is how do you introduce yourself. So when I was a student, our career center director came in and told us to do our elevator pitch to the person sitting next to our left, and he said, you need to do it in under 30 seconds. And I turned to him and I said, well, I'm I can talk, I can do this very quickly. So I turned to the person on my left, and I went on for 2 or 3 minutes, and then the career center director cut us all off. He's like, it's harder than it looks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the point is this is something you actually have to kind of rehearse. And it boils down to things like, who you are and what your name is, where you're a student at, what your major is, and where you're thinking about working, and some little vignettes about yourself, little stories about yourself that can capture who you are very quickly. But the challenge is to be brief and to make points, And so next week when you're thinking about being at the event, I want to challenge you all to get business cards for sure, and in between now and then think hard about what that elevator pitch is, and practice it in the mirror. Get it down to a quick, brief introduction, but get the important stuff out. And Yvonne, you've probably coached many people in how to do this, but I know maybe it's too elementary for everybody on the call, and it's just me, but any tips on just making the basic elevator pitch / introduction in a professional setting when you're a college student and you're talking to a recruiter or maybe a partner at a CPA firm who's there for a recruiting purpose?
I would err on the side of less is more, and sometimes it can seem rehearsed or even forced if you're walking up to a recruiter and through your elevator pitch you are basically controlling and dominating the first 30 seconds to minute of the introduction. I know that's something that colleges now are really reinforcing in their students with elevator pitches. I think the great benefit from it is it does keep you focused on key talking points, but maybe they are talking points that happen over the course of a conversation and not necessarily being the 2-minute data dump to the recruiter who's really just trying to learn and interact with you oftentimes as a person. So take Jeff's advice on those key points, but maybe it's key points that you choose to weave in through the course of a conversation with the recruiter, as opposed to feeling the push to do everything, in the first 2 minutes.
That's a great advice. I mean, it's the art of meeting someone, and
Yeah.
and you're meeting the person, and I think that. No, you're right on. The elevator pitch is critical, but it's really the matter of weaving the important stories in and out of a conversation, because you can't be afraid to ask questions and start a conversation as well. I mean, find common ground, work a conversation, ask questions, do basic intros, and I love it. Another question that I've wanted to bring up with you is about interview prep, but I think this also goes to the art of professional conversations. I've always advised students and professionals to kind of prepare answers around interviews based on stories from their student career, their professional career, where they displayed different characteristics, like working in a team, working under a deadline, working through adversity, and kind of having those in the form of stories, short, concise stories, because people remember stories more than they remember claims. I'm a really good student, that's a claim, but I have a 3.9. I was president of the Beta Alpha Psi. Well, I've got a good student background. That's a story that you can work with. And I always felt like that if you had those stories kind of worked into your, almost rehearsed, but they shouldn't come out rehearsed, but if you can rehearse them to the point that you can get them out quickly and authentically without sounding rehearsed, whether in a formal interview or an informal professional conversation, it will serve you well. And And now I'm wondering if that's even good advice. And if you don't think it is, Yvonne, you can call me out on it, and we'll set the record straight. But any comments on just kind of thinking about stories where that help other people understand a little bit more about your background in the art of meeting people?
Sure, I think it's great advice, Jeff, and I think it's safe to share with those on the call is that a lot of your interview questions will be based on your past behavior, based on your past experience, and what many employers are trying to derive is really aspects of your brand. How do you handle times of difficult situations? How do you manage through project teams that are diverse in nature? And it could be diverse in terms of the project team itself or diversity of thought. So, interview questions, hopefully many of you are getting a lot of great information from your Career Services Center or from your professors, but to the extent that you are rehearsing interview questions and also too using your resume as a guide, you should be able to pick apart your resume and identify questions that an employer would ask based on something that you have on your resume and build out a story for every aspect. Some of the most painful interviews, I think, for the candidate and for me were for people who just weren't even familiar with their resume, didn't understand, why they were putting something on their resume as a potential asset to the employer. They couldn't speak to it. They couldn't build on it. It was just words on a paper. So for that screening interview, so many of you will go through multiple phases of an interview process. There will be a screening interview, potentially a second phone interview, or maybe the second step is actually an in-person interview. Your screening interview is going to be all about resume, or at least 85 to 90% resume. The challenging questions that Jeff's describing, that's going to be steps 2 and potentially steps 3. But by that point, you will have learned more about the culture, you will learn more about the company, and you will be able to probably even guide yourself, okay, I know they're going to ask questions that are in this potential area. And then something that Jeff maybe didn't mention, I'm sorry, Jeff, if I missed it, but you also need to brand yourself by the questions you ask the employer. Some of the candidates that I remember the most and that impressed me the most were the ones who asked the most powerful questions of me in the interview process, and not those who were the best answerers of questions they received.
Wow.
So another
I've always liked
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've always liked the question to a recruiter or to a CPA, especially the CPA, is like, there's lots of options. You could have gone to other companies or to other industries. Why have you stayed at this firm or this company? What is it about this place that's kept you here? Or if they were new, what is it about this place? Why did you choose this company? And because they are also trying to sell you on the opportunity, and that's a really good connection and a good question to ask. You can learn a lot about the company and the person through that question.
Yep.
It's great insight.
It built your brand, and it helped me as a recruiter understand who was taking the deeper dive in this decision, who was truly, taking what I'll call a more mature approach to the job interview in terms of not just receiving the information the company wanted to give, but capturing the information that was important to his or her decision. And it always stood out by the questions the candidate was asking.
That's good advice. Yvonne, that was an insightful point, that the questions that candidates asked you were one of the factors that made you remember candidates. And I got to admit, as a job seeker, that's what I want. I want you to remember me. Mm-hmm. What are other attributes that would stand out, whether at a networking event or in an interview environment, that impressed you as a recruiter, besides what kind of questions a candidate might answer?
So for the upcoming networking event that I understand that many on this call may be participating in, I know it's going to maybe seem a little hard when I say this, but a candidate's command of the room, and using the word again, a candidate who is very intentional when they network, in terms of almost even having a plan and strategy of which companies they want to speak to, being patient, recognizing that there are oftentimes a few recruiters and lots of candidates, but being patient, standing in line, and waiting. I hate to say this, but waiting your turn to speak with the recruiter, and then knowing your 2 to 3 things that you really want to walk away with after your interaction with the recruiter. If it's all about leaving your resume and getting a business card, you haven't connected with me. But if you've left me something that helps me remember you, and I could tell that you were there and you were engaging me to get answers to your questions, I'm going to remember you as a candidate. For the interview and the interview process, what helps me remember you is preparation. I hope I don't have to say this, but I will just in case. Be on time. Be early. If you're on time, you're probably late. And then, come prepared to that interview, prepared to interview me. If I have to cut you off as a recruiter in an interview, I don't think that's a bad thing. I feel like, okay, we have just had a business negotiation. You have kept me honest and sharp in terms of my portrayal of the company, and I've pulled information from you, and whether you join the company or we extend the offer, we both walk away from that interview knowing if this is going to be a fit or not. And that's your win, right? You don't want to necessarily walk away and have 15 job offers. You want the 3 offers for the companies that best fit you. That's your win.
That is such a strong point, because it isn't, and maybe there are times in our economy, in our economic situation, where the win is getting as many job offers as you can, but this really isn't where we are now, and it is pretty strong, and you should be able to at least know enough about what you're looking for to identify the right wins and get the right job offers for the right companies. That's a tremendous point. Before we close up, since we're here and just a couple minutes over the top of the hour, Emma, and don't forget you might be on mute, but are there any other marching orders or instructions, pertaining to next week before we break? I want to make sure you have a chance to get in here before we end the session. If not, just let me know.
First of all, I just wanted to say thank you so much. This was a very informative presentation. A lot of good information. A lot of it I have used to forge my own path. Like, I have my own personal board of directors that I refer to. And I'll be honest, on my board of directors, I have students, because not only because they're my constituents, they're who I work with all the time. So I have people at levels where I'm at, levels, where they're trying to get where I'm going, and people at levels where I'm trying to go on my board of directors. And I actively engage with my board of directors. And I have a vision board. And I've had that vision board since I was in the 8th grade. And in the 8th grade, I said, that I was going to go to Auburn, that I was going to graduate at the top of my class, that I was going to go work for a national accounting firm. I was going to leave there, work for a Fortune 100 company, and that eventually I'd become a professor. I went to Auburn, graduated at the top of my class, went to work for PwC. My last job was an assistant controller for a Fortune 100 company, and now I'm a professor, and I own my own forensic accounting firm. So I believe, in everything you said here, and I also believe in that brand. So I just want to tell the people on the call that everything that was said on this call, I've applied and it works. So thank you so much for sharing that information with the people on the call. And please don't forget, Friday is the last day to sign up. So if you have some friends who want to join you at the conference, Friday is the last day. We're already at 100 registrants. So we're going to close it early because we're at capacity for the conference. And if you are not going to be able to make it, please let us know that as well, because again, we are at capacity for the conference. And just thank you all and have a wonderful evening.
All right, thanks, Emma, and thank you, Yvonne, and great job. I want to thank you for pulling this presentation together, and wish every student who watches this live or recording a very successful recruitment season and start to their career. And thanks for being a part of the session today.
Thanks to everyone.
Right.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Accountingtly.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and end today's presentation. Have a fantastic afternoon and a great weekend. Bye for now.